Dear students, welcome to the course Introduction to the Metaphysics of Sanskrit Language. This is lecture 7. Today we are going to begin unit 2. So, in our course, unit 2 is titled as Introduction to the Components of Sanskrit Language. Basically, as you are familiar with the title of the course, that is Metaphysics of Sanskrit Language. So, what does this word metaphysics means? Metaphysics has two words, meta then physics. You are well aware about the physics, right? और अच्छी तरीके से पढ़ा है physics क्या है. So physical aspects of a language, they are understood as the physics when we deal with the components which we have already understood in the stream of sciences also, like Dhvani, that means sound, energy, sound energy. Then what are the possible patterns when the sound energy is interacting at different surfaces. So these phenomena are studied under the head of physical aspects. When we trespass the physical aspects, that is physical level of the existence of language, that becomes metaphysics. So meta word is denoting you beyond, going beyond something, right? Meta denotes going beyond something. So physical aspects are already understood a lot by all of us today. They are being studied a lot, but the aspects which are crossing the physical level of existence, that they are left behind, and they have been dealt in Indian corpus, and that's why we have this course for our much deeper understanding about the language. So meta means trespassing the physical aspects. And if we are going to trespass the physical aspects, we need to have a brief recap about the physical ones first. And that's why in the 2 slides, right now whatever I am going to teach you in the beginning, in the 2 slides I will explain the physical aspects, just a brief recap for all of us. And then I will enter into the metaphysical aspects, which are the desired content of this particular course. So as you can see that in the physical aspects, I have already explained in lecture 1 also, but again I am going to repeat few of the things, like whenever we study any of the language, the first component which comes into existence, that is Dhvani, or the base sound. Yesterday I told you that we have, when we teach a child or a kid the language, we start from the Varṇa mala and we make the kid habituated with the pronunciation of different sounds. We are not obsessed with the written version of the language or bhasha. We are habituated to give the practice of the pronunciation of the sounds from the base structure itself. So the first component of a bhasha is Dhvani, that can be understood as sound. So here you can see basic unit of all the languages is Dhvani. Then syllables or Akṣara or Varṇa, they come into existence, and they are those sounds which can be uttered. And what's the difference between Dhvani and Akṣara? Each and every creature, even if you try to move this table, this will also create a sound. Dhvani is there, right? So you cannot say that this table doesn't possess the capability of language or bhasha. That's why I am repeatedly saying that we have language as a very grand dimension, grand understanding, grand field of study. Bhasha is innate capability of each and everything which is in existence, which has been manifested. So each and every entity is capable of having the set or potency of bhasha. This table is also having Dhvani sounds, but this is not able to utter the sounds. That's why you or we feel that this table doesn't possess the potential or the language. So this is the restriction, or you can say a kind of a limitation of our understanding or our capability, that we think that only we are the sophisticated persons to have or to possess language. So Dhvani is available in each and every entity of the manifestation, while Akṣara or Varṇa, they are the sounds which can be uttered. So you can imagine that the birds, different animals, they also produce some specified Akṣaras, they utter it. They utter it. Even in complete silence, if you are trying to study in the mid of night, 2 to 3 or 4 p.m., you can easily get the sounds which are uttered or made by different animals surrounding you. In your hostel itself, in your garden itself, wherever you want to catch that sound. If you have time to focus on the sounds of the other creatures, you can easily comprehend them. So basically, Akṣar and Varṇa are those sounds which are uttered by anyone. Okay. Next unit is Śabda or word, which is understood literally as a word in English. But in Sanskrit, we have particular word like Dhvani, then Akṣar or Varṇa, then Śabda. That's why in Vakyapadiyam of Bhartrihari, we are using this particular word, Anadinidanam Brahma Śabda Tattvam Yadakṣaram. So, Śabda is getting produced when the combination of Akṣaras or Varnas is happening, or we are receiving the combination of Varnas. So, in turn, if something is the combination of so many Akṣaras or Varnas, that becomes Śabda. That's why even if those who are familiar with Malayalam, if you are familiar with Malayalam, then this word Śabda is itself used there. Even if you are wearing a payal or a ghunguru and you want to convey the meaning that this payal is or a ghunguru is making sound, then you will use the word Śabdam. Śabdam, same word, because we are inheriting the vocabulary of the Sanskrit language itself without any modification. Śabdam ma kuru, that means don't make the noises. So, Śabda is a word which is multidimensional and is borrowed from the same root or the base language, that is Sanskrit. So, Śabda is combination of the syllables, and then Pad, then Pad comes into existence. So, Pad becomes a morphological unit, and at last we have Ukti or utterances. Whatever I am saying in the form of so many sentences, that becomes my utterance. So, whatever ma'am is uttering, that is Ukti. Ma'am ne kya kaha tha, what was said yesterday. So, that is Ukti. What she said, what was said, so Ukti. So, that is why when I told you the styles of writing the Shastra, there was a last one, Ukta, Anukta, Durukta, 3 shabd the. That has been said, that is not said, and that is difficult to be said, Ukta, Anukta and Durukta. So, Ukti comes, that is said or that is uttered. Now, let us understand one by one the differences. First thing, Dhvani. Dhvani is the base sound, basic unit of all the language. Then Akṣar or Varṇa, you split this word. Akṣaram, I have explained in few of the in previous lectures. What is Akṣaram? Akṣaram charanam na gacchati, जिसका destruction नहीं होता है, वो अक्षर है, ठीक है. Now the second word is Varṇa. Why this word is also used to denote syllable or akshar? Varṇa has two meaning. One is of the syllable, one is of a color. जब हम कहना होता है किस वर्ण की का कपड़ा पहने हो, तो भी हम वर्ण शब्द का प्रयोग करते हैं. Which color you are wearing the shirt of which color? So, color is also denoted by Varṇa. This why this meaning is very important. Later on in the lectures in unit 4, when I will explain you the state of Kundalini and chakras, then you will find that each of the chakra, which is a metaphysical entity present inside of us, having so many petals, and each petal is having one Varṇa, and that Varṇa is not only this akshar, this sound or Varnamala coming from the Varnamala, but also has the color. Just like, very simply, in the sciences, you know what is E is equals to, one is mc square, popular version, second one H mu. Then what is mu? Frequency को कैसे करेंगे? hc by lambda. So what is this one? Lambda is wavelength. right? So what is this? Even if you comprehend each of the sound that is having a particular energy, and particular energy is having a particular wavelength. So in turn, you can understand that each sound which is being produced, whether it is uttered or not, doesn't matter. Whether we can hear it or not, doesn't matter. It has an energy, so it has a color. Whether we can see it or not doesn't matter, because we have the limitations of our senses, and in turn that's the deciding factor which is making the Indian corpus so reliable, so relevant, that we are studying. So here you can, Akṣara and Varṇa are having two possible meaning. One is Varṇa of syllable, that means coming from the Varnamala in the sense of sound, and second is color. Next is Śabda. Śabda is the combination of so many aksharas or varnas. For example, in Sanskrit we have so many Śabdas. They are broadly classified in two categories. One is Śabda Rupa, second is Dhatu Rupa. So what is difference between Śabda Rupa and Dhatu Rupa? Moola Śabda, to create a particular noun or pronoun or numbers, they are coming under the head of Śabda Rupa. Just say, for example, Ram. Ram is the root or Moola Śabda. In the same way, when I told you, don't get confused with the Brahma or Brahman. So I just told this thing that root is Brahman. So Moola Śabda is Brahman. In the same way, Moola Śabda is Atman. From the Atman, we derive Atma, Atmanau, Atmanah, so many forms, according to the number, according to the gender. So what is happening here? We have one original word which is understood as Moola Śabda, to create either nouns or pronouns or numbers. Just like Ramaḥ, Ramau, Rama, in the same way, Saha, Tau, Te for the pronoun. He in Dvivachan, then again he in Bahuvachan. Bahu is not three, Bahu means three or more than three, anything. So in Sanskrit we have Ekvachan, Dvivachan and Bahuvachan. Singular and plural, ये English में है, लेकिन in Sanskrit we have singular, dual, and then plural denotes three or more than three. It can go up to infinite. That's why Sanskrit grammar is a generative grammar. It can generate so many infinite number of words from the main base root. शब्द, मूल शब्द से कितने भी अनंत शब्द बना सकते हैं आप. So this is what मूल शब्द, शब्द रूप, having मूल शब्द in the form of nouns, संज्ञा, सर्वनाम, and then संख्या, संख्यावाचक. Like ekvachan, that is eki dvi. Just like yesterday I told you, eki dvi. In the same way, we have for ek, because one is one, so we cannot make it double or dual or bahuvachan. But for dual, we cannot make it plural or bahuvachan. In the same way, for the numbers 3 or more than 3, we can just multiply them, just produce according to the gender, according to the number. So we can derive infinite number of words from the base word or moola shabda in the form of sangya, sarvanam and sankhya. Second part is of dhatu roop, that is verb. Just like from root pat, we can create pathati for one. Saha pathati, he reads. Then pathati, pathataha, pathanti. If there are two persons, then we are making pathataha. If there are 3 or more than 3, then we use pathanti. So accordingly, we are generating the words from the same base root pat. So this is how we can derive infinite number of words from the base word. So in Sanskrit, we have basically two types of shabda. That is, one is a shabda rupa, other is a dhatu rupa. And when we create the words from the base word, that becomes a pad. So basically what I am trying to say, if I am using the word Ram, this is the base word. If I am using the word Brahman, this is the base word. यानी शब्द है, मूल शब्द है. This is मूल शब्द. And if I create it in singular, ekvachan, karta karak, nominative case, Brahma, or from Atman, Atma. So that will become Pad. It will become a morphological unit. Linguistically, it's a morphological unit. Why? Because we have already made it fused with its markers at the end. And in Sanskrit, this is very interesting because we create the words with its marker, fused with the word itself. In Hindi, what is the problem? Like if I say Ram ne pustak padhi. So, Ram ne is the marker for the karta karak, and it is not fused with the Ram. But in Sanskrit, Ramaḥ pustakam pathati. Visarga is the marker to denote nominative case singular, and it is fused with the Ram. So, in Sanskrit, I can speak and write both the forms. Ramaḥ pustakam pathati, pustakam Ramaḥ pathati, pathati Ramaḥ pustakam. There will be no change in the meaning, because each word is carrying its inflectional marker fused with it. No change in the meaning. But in Hindi, I cannot say ne Ram pustak padi, Ram pustak padi ne. No, obviously the meaning is going to be damaged. This is making the language Sanskrit as a most significant one to preserve the original text intact. We are still having this much of corpus just because the language is itself so much of coded, highly coded version, highly compressed version. That's why at some point of time, if you have undergone all the teachings of the Shastra, you will say that I will not speak anything, I will not write anything in the thesis, I will just like a single sound, that is Om, this is my thesis, submitted. Now you rest your case to the examiners as per their intellectual capability. They need to decode it. You decode the Om, you will decode the infiniteness of my thesis. This is sufficient. Highly possible, that means the grandest possible compression level of understanding or knowledge, compressed in a single sound. And that's why I told you that the Vedic corpus is very highly mystical, very highly compressed, highly coded. And that's why we need so much of learning before proceeding to actually understand the meaning of the Vedic mantras and also to translate them. Before proceeding for the translation also, we need the basic potential, eligibility criteria to understand the correct meaning of the mantras. If you want to provide some source from some target source language to target language, you just not need the superficial understanding of the words. You need a depth knowledge, in-depth knowledge in order to translate the mantras of the Vedas in another language. Specifically, if the language is not coming from the direct source of Sanskrit. Even if when we are trying to translate the text in Indian languages, we have the comfort zone of possessing the vocabulary of the Sanskrit. But when we translate the same content in English or in any other language, we even don't have that liberty also. So there is blunders are happening, they have already happened in the last thousands of years in just making the translations available in different parts, because we are, a lot of people are in a habit to know everything but in a very shortcut way, and shortcut doesn't work in case of Shuddha Vidyas, especially in Indian corpus. Okay. The next is, so you can understand Pad is a morphological unit which is already having its inflectional marker. In the same way, in case of verb, from Pat, when we create Pathati or Patata or Pathanti, the marker is fused. So you change the sequence of the words in a sentence, doesn't matter. Okay. Next is Ukti, that means utterances, what is being said. and they can be of two types. One is a sentence and second is a statement. What is the difference between sentence and statement? Sentence is general, conveys the general meaning to everyone, and statement carries a judgment value. Judgment value means when I examine something and then I put my views in a kind of a specified sentence, just like suppose you are you are participating in a competition where you have participated in a debate competition, and there are few juries or judges seated. So judges sitting over there in the selection or in giving the judgment, they will write a particular sentence like this person has given this kind of presentation nicely, or very poor, or something excellent. So whatever they will write, that will carry a judgment value. So statements carry a judgment value and sentences are in general. So that's why sentences do not have a hard and fast rule that they are valid itself. Sometimes in general speaking you skip so many of the things, but it is understood. Maybe I didn't say, but it was understood to you. But in statements you have to clarify each and every word very carefully. What you are mentioning, what you are presenting, what you are giving, because it has a judgment value. So this is the basic difference. Now as I have already told about the swar and vyanjan, so I am not going to repeat it. These are the swaras and vyanjanas: a, e, u, a, o, au, re, ri. These are the basic swaras, along short and long, that means hirsu and dirgha, and from starting from ka ending at ha along with kshatragya, these are the vyanjanas. I have already explained in lecture 1, so I am skipping here. Now let us understand with reference of the physical aspects itself, some linguistic aspects also. When we pronounce, what is happening in the swaras, in the set of this swar, in Varna mala, when we split this word Varna mala. So Varn and mala, Varn means aksharas, syllables, and mala is garland. So if we are pronouncing a, e, u, a, o, what is happening? It's a rhythmic pattern. We can make a garland of these swaras and just recite them regularly, and that's why very easily the child learns all the sounds. So we are being trained by getting the teachings of the Varnamala when we started our learning from the childhood. So we have mala, garland of the swaras and the vyanjanas. In the same way, ka, kha, ga, gha, ng, cha, cha, ja, ja, it can be recited in a metrical format, so that you will be able to pronounce all the sounds in a form of garland. So Varna mala, that's why it is understood as Varna mala. In vowels or in swaras, we have these are short and long, you know it very well, short and long, and then in vyanjanas, what is here needed to be known little bit, although you know it very well. Like when we pronounce the sounds, they are either kanthe, guttural, coming from the throat itself, ka, it's guttural, talavve, palatal, then cerebral, murdhanya, and then dant, labial. So these are the place of pronunciation, and accordingly we pronounce different sounds. What is important here? One thing, which is the sequence of ya, ra, la, va and sa, sh, sa, ha. Sequence. Sometimes the students get confused why the sequence is ya, ra, la, va or ya, la, ra, va. So what is the actual thing, why this confusion comes? So I am going to address that misconception, or you can say just a confusion. In Ashtadhyaya of Panini, when he begins from the Shiva Sutras, Maheshwar Sutras. Maheshwar Sutras are 14 in number. Ayud, Rilik, Eong, Aoch, Hevarat, Lad, Yamang, Gadanam, Jhabhai, Ghadadash, Jab, Gadadash, Khafa, Chatat, Chatatav, Kapai, Shasha, Shara, Hala. This is the 14 Maheshwar Sutras list. In these sutras, ha, ya, va, ra, ta, then lada. What is the sequence? Ha, ya, va, ra, la. So, ha, ya, va, ra, ta, la, da. This is the ya, va, ra, la. This is the sequence as per the Ashtadhyayi of Parani. Why? Because he has put these sutras, not he has put, these are the Maheshwar sutras and coming directly from the sound of the Damaru of the Shiva. I will explain when I will begin the Agama Shastra. So, the sequence as per the Maheshwar sutras is ya, va, ra, la. But the sequence as per the place of pronunciation is ya, ra, la, va. How? Because ya is palatal, ra is cerebral, la is dental and va is labio-dental. That means you are coming from inside to outside. So, the place of pronunciation is deciding the sequence. When we are trained from the childhood to speak or to learn the Varnamala, then we are made to pronounce the sounds. So, automatically we will be comforted when we will pronounce slowly from the inside to the outside, because in speaking, in bhasha, what we are doing? We are trying to express whatever is inside. So, in expression, coming from the expression of inside to the outside, we are habituated or trained accordingly to express the things from inner side to the outer side. So, the sequence of the sounds is arranged in that manner that we follow this track from Kanthe to Danta. This is the track. That is why in Varnamala what we practice? Ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. We never recite from the last one. कभी सीखा ऐसा कि क्षत्रज्ञ से शुरू किया गया और पढ़ाना सिखाना? नहीं. We have been trained like क ख ग घ, कंठ से शुरू किया गया और उसके बाद दंत पर आते हैं. Last is the labio-dental sound vakar. When we use va, it's labio-dental. Our lips and teeth both are involved in that. So, the place of pronunciation is making us trained enough to pronounce different types of sounds, and that is why linguistically we are very well talented, very well trained. We are quick enough to learn multiple languages because we are already multilingual. We have been trained in so much of complicated sounds to how to pronounce them, how to articulate them from the childhood, that we can easily grasp if we put some of the efforts in carefully listening, because language cannot be comprehended by writing. You cannot learn a language by writing. You have to learn the language by listening, by perceiving, receiving the sounds. So, the more you are involved in receiving the sounds of different types of versions of utterances, you will automatically learn them. That is why the method of learning of a language is not script based, it is oral. In the next one, now we are going to enter into the metaphysical aspects of the language, because that is our base target component of the course. I have already mentioned few other things, but we just making a brief recap like language and reality, because I told you that we are going to touch the metaphysical aspects. So, there are few metaphysical aspects which are total 5. So, this is a kind of summary through which we are going to enter into the subject matter. 5 basic targets. First, in Indian tradition, in Indian knowledge systems, in Indian corpus, how language is studied so deeply that it can define reality. सत्ता को कैसे बताती है भाषा? That means our existence, my existence is because of my name, right? Throughout my life, I will be known by my name. So, if my name is not existing, my existence will also not be in existence. यही सच्चाई है कि भाषा सत्ता को बता देती है. इस तरीके से in this way we are having the first notion that language and reality both are interconnected. We cannot separate both of them. So, the first target which we are going to enter or understand and discuss elaborately, that will be how language is describing reality. Second aspect, how this bhasha is having two particular dimensions, mantratmak and prapanchatmak, where a lot of students have not written the correct answer in the mid semester, but in the end semester you are not having a liberty so much. You have to write the correct answers, because at that time you will be very much knowledgeable according to this content if you focus in the course properly. Mantratmak and prapanchatmak are the two dimensions of the bhasha. Why? Because mantratmak deals with the manan kshamata, contemplation, and prapanchatmak deals with the description or explanation of the reality or multiplicity. And in both the cases, bhasha works in two possible modes. First, to describe the reality, and second, to create the reality, and this is going to be explained. Third is language as an ontological category. This is a very important notion, so I will take time to explain it. Fourth one is discourse of language as a cognitive system, and fifth one will be the intrinsic property of language. So basically our course is going to revolve around these 5 base concepts, fundamental concepts, and just for the beginning, for the next lecture, the platform which I am going to make here is going to give you the glimpse how we are going to enter into the study of the bhasha with a complete new insight. Suppose this is an object. Everyone is knowing that this is an object. There is no need to suppose it. This is an object, right? And this object is known by me or you through my senses. Okay? And who is the knower? Me. So in this complete process, 3 entities are involved. One is the object. Second, the perceiver, the observer, me. Third, the means of cognition or the instrument of that perception, that is my senses. So in short, in this whole process, 3 entities are important: prameya or the object, pramata, the cognizer or the observer, me, and pramad, the evidence or the instrument of cognition or the senses through which I am knowing this object. 3 entities are important. Now, for general understanding, or you can say for a very simplistic understanding of this ontological category, if you place language, suppose this pen is bhasha, so your object to be known is bhasha. Okay? This is the object to be known. Bhasha, language, is itself an object to be known. Who is the knower? Who is going to know it? Me or you, the perceiver, the observer. How it is going to be known? How can I describe bhasha without using bhasha? No. I have to describe what bhasha is by using bhasha. That's why in Bhartrihari's Karika, what is mentioning? Anadinidhanam Brahma Śabda tattvam yadaksharam. He is describing the Śabda tattva, but by using the bhasha itself, because there is no other means to describe this ontological category, language, other than the language itself. So as an ontological category in our subject, when we make this bhasha as the object to be known by us, we have to use the bhasha as the means to know it. No other means is applicable. And the same property is with our consciousness. Our own consciousness can never be known without or any other means other than the consciousness itself. एक कॉन्शियस एंटाइटी को कॉन्शियस एंटाइटी के अलावा कोई नहीं जान सकता, कोई भी नहीं. Why? Because you cannot measure out a kind of substance or an object which has its topmost end as infinity. If you make a kind of object whose last point is infinity, you cannot measure it out with a limited scale. ऐसा कोई ऑब्जेक्ट बना सकते हो जिसकी लास्ट पॉइंट लास्ट सीमा इन्फिनिटी है और उसे किसी 12 इंच या 6 इंच की स्केल से नापने जाओगे तो क्या नाप लोगे? Not possible. Not possible. That means if we want to measure out consciousness whose property, whose actual existence or whose actual attribute is infinity, infiniteness, you cannot measure it with a finite instrument. Other than in the exceptional condition, or you can say, we can say like infinity can be measured out with the infinity itself. No other means is suitable, no other means is compatible enough to measure that out. So, in both of these examples, one similarity is there. Just like we cannot measure our own consciousness with any other instrument other than the consciousness, in the same way we cannot identify language as an object without language, and in that sense itself language and reality both are similar and they both run parallel. Once language comes into existence, automatically existence comes into existence, and that is the relation which is known as eternal relationship, समवाय संबंध. एक के बिना दूसरे का कोई अस्तित्व नहीं है. So, this is going to be understood or explained in detail from the next classes onwards. For this lecture, this is sufficient. Thank you.